Are you surviving the wind?
Man, it's crazy. It is wild. I mean, yeah, it's I had to go chase down our trash cans. They were 2 houses down. I had to go chase them down. It was nuts.
We fortunately didn't lose any trash or anything on our property, but my basketball goal in the wind collapsed and fell over, and it was a glass backboard, and so it shattered all over the driveway, and I had to clean it all up, and now I do not have a basketball goal in my front yard.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, that stinks. Jeez.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, publisher of Daily Thunder, and I'll be your host today. Alongside me is Daily Thunder beat writer Brandon Rebar. Brandon, how are you this very windy Wednesday?
I am doing well. I haven't blown away, but yeah, I've lost some trash cans due to the wind. RIP my trash cans, but doing well. Coming off of a 3-0 road trip for the Thunder.
That's right. So we're going to break down the last 7 days of Thunder basketball. We are going to break down that 3-0 road trip, the one that Brandon was a little bit skeptical whether the Thunder could pull out a 3-0 record. So the Thunder proved even the biggest sunshine pumpers wrong, with even more sunshine than expected. And then we'll talk a little bit about the investigation into the Thunder and violations of the player participation policy, the way that the Western Conference playoff picture is coming into focus, and let's think a little bit about the 2025 NBA draft and the potential picks the Thunder may have in that draft. But let's start with the games. So if you remember back a week ago when we were previewing this game against the Celtics, again, Brandon, the biggest sunshine pumper that I know, did not think the Thunder had the horses to beat the Celtics on the road in Boston without J-Dub, also without Alex Caruso. But Brandon, what happened?
I'll tell you what happened. This Thunder team keeps exceeding expectations to the point that they are making realists out of sunshine pumpers. They're making doubters out of sunshine pumpers. I've been incredibly optimistic on this team all season long, all last season long, and for good reason, because they've been, last season the best team in the Western Conference, this season the best team in the NBA. But this was going to be a tough one. The Celtics were fully healthy. They had all their guys. They had Tatum. They had Brown. They had Horford, Holiday, and White. They didn't have Porzingis, but they haven't had Porzingis for half the season. So this is kind of just the Celtics. They had Pritchard, all those guys. But without J-Dub, without Caruso, what happened was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander continues to be the best player on the court no matter who he's going up against, whether it's a fellow MVP candidate like he did twice on this road trip, if it's a fellow All-Star like he did 5-6 times on this 3-0 road trip. Shai is just the best player, and this team continues to play team ball, and no matter who's missing, whether it's J-Dub and Alex Caruso, two of your key guys, other guys will step up like Cason Wallace, like Isaiah Hartenstein, like Isaiah Joe did in this game. And in a big, big way, Chet was incredible against the Celtics. He was the number 2 guy. He had 23 and 15. I thought he was outstanding.
Well, I think you're right that even the biggest sunshine pumpers may need to be even more optimistic about this team, because a win on the road in Boston, the defending champions, this is a great win, right? It's one that you really should be excited about and give you confidence that headed into the playoffs, the Thunder are a legit finals contender, right? The youngest team in the NBA. You've read the news clippings that teams don't fear the Thunder because of their age and inexperience, but here they go into a hostile environment against generally a healthy Boston Celtics team and really run the table from tip to end. It was a close game, but Thunder were the better team.
Yeah, they were the better team, and they played better team ball. The Celtics shot so many threes, and I think some of this that's just who the Celtics are, but they shot even more than they normally do. But a lot of that is because I think the defensive pressure that the Thunder put on the Celtics, that they put on everybody. This is a historic defense for a reason, whether it's the perimeter defenders, whether it's the protection at the rim between Chet and Hartenstein. It's everybody playing on a string. It's the closeouts. This team continues to impress. These are the champions. And this was a game that was on national TV. The Celtics wanted this. Those guys that were questionable wanted to play. They obviously came out with an edge to beat this upstart Thunder team that, a lot of people have been predicting this is going to be the finals preview. So the Celtics wanted this. Like, there's no doubt about that. And they played like they wanted it. But the Thunder controlled this game. Once the Celtics threes stopped falling in the second half because, they shot an absurd number in the first half, but that pressure got to them. Some of those, some of it's variance, some of it's a make or miss league. And when you rely on the 3-pointers, especially against a good defense like this Thunder defense, that can cost you. But the Thunder just played their game. They did what they always do. They got double-digit scoring from 7 guys. That's with J-Dub and Caruso out. They still got scoring from everybody. This was a night where Aaron Wiggins goes 0 for 9, which is obviously an anomaly. And they still beat the Celtics on the road without J-Dub and Caruso by 6. I just thought there have been a lot of impressive wins this season from the Thunder. And I know that we've said that on this podcast. It seems like every week we're like, okay, I know we said it before, but this is one of the most impressive wins of the season. Well, I know we've said it before, but this truly is one of the most impressive wins of the season.
Totally agree. And if there was anything worth watching, I did enjoy how many threes the Celtics were taking. I kind of wanted them to take 100 threes. They took 22 in the first quarter and thought, man, if they really wanted to, like if they could take 80, 90 threes this game at that pace. They did slow down a little bit, but outside of that first quarter where they made 9 of 22, they didn't hit the threes as well, especially in the second half, and that was the difference in the game. So a really nice win for the Thunder, but they kept the team on the road, and they played the Pistons in the next game. The Pistons, again, a pretty solid year for the Pistons. This is their turnaround year. Cade Cunningham is kind of coming into his own, and I'd say this was going to be a tough game for the Thunder as well, although one that you thought the Thunder would pull away with, and they ultimately did. But this was an interesting game. He had Shai, who went nuts. He scored 48 points. He was, again, clearly the best player on the court. And then you had Lou Dort, who led the team in plus-minus. He was a plus 27 in 27 minutes, even though he only scored 7 points. But he went out with an injury in the third quarter. J-Dub was also out. Wiggins was also out. And there was a tough fourth quarter that the Thunder had to lock down to pull away with the win. But the one interesting thing about this game was that fourth quarter was also played without Cade Cunningham, who got ejected in this game. And a really, I guess to me, an odd scenario there where Jalen Williams drew an off-the-ball foul and went to the line, and I don't know what was going on if the Pistons didn't agree with the foul, but like they got really mad when J. Will went to the free throw line, and Cade Cunningham got a tee. Shai went to go take a free throw. They're still chirping at the refs. Everybody's yelling at the refs on the Pistons side, and then more texts came. I think Shai took 4 technical free throws on that one possession before J. Will even took his free throws. And then it did result in Cade Cunningham getting ejected. What was going on in that moment of the game?
It was wild. According to the pool report after the game, Cade Cunningham got tossed because basically he was cussing at the refs. And, he got the first tech. They told him to stop, and apparently he kept cussing at the refs and got the second tech and got tossed. And I kind of hate, it was a bizarre scenario. It was bizarre to see one team shoot so many techs in a row. By the way, just as far as narratives go and things like that, Shai shot 10 free throws that night. 5 of them were technical free throws. 2 of them were end of the game, blowout, intentional foul free throws. So only 3 of those came like in the course of the game. He probably actually earned more free throws than that. I hate, though, that the narrative after the game and that the storyline after the game just became like, JB Bickerstaff and the post-game rant and all those things, because the story of the game should have been Shai's dominance, like especially down the stretch. He made clutch bucket after clutch bucket, and especially the way that he made them. 48 points, like you said, 17 of 26 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3. And as far as like Cade getting tossed, just to go back to that, the Thunder had a double-digit lead at that point. The Thunder were in control of the game at that point. Cade was a minus 28 in 29 minutes, and Lou Dort was a plus 27 in 27 minutes. So the fact that both of them left the game at that point, I don't think that you can say, oh, that's the reason the Pistons lost. They actually made a good run after that whole scene. Cade is a great player. He's been great this season, but that's not the reason the Thunder won that game. The free throws are not the reason the Thunder won that game. The reason the Thunder won that game was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander playing like the MVP.
Well, yeah, you can add J.B. Bickerstaff to yet another in the line of coaches who I guess have complained about the whistle when they play the Thunder. I mean, Michael Malone went off on officiating after the Nuggets played the Thunder, and then Bickerstaff just had a rant after the game. He kind of said that the Thunder were getting all the calls, right? Or the refs were maybe favoring the Thunder, because he said, first, they have a guy fall down and trip on his own teammate's foot, then they review us for a hostile act. They throw an elbow to our chest neck area, and I asked for them to take a look at it. No one would take a look at it. The disrespect has gone far enough that I'm not going to allow our guys to be treated the way that they were treated tonight. He also brought up the fact that an official was arguing with Mark, but then Bickerstaff says that he just said his name one time, and then he gets yelled at by the refs. Now, I think the Thunder might argue the opposite, right? That they're not the beneficiary of the whistle, and the Thunder are one of the worst teams when it comes to free throw rate this season. And maybe their physical play causes the officials to swallow the whistles a little bit more, and games aren't called the same when you've got two teams that are really physical. And that's really what this was. The Pistons are a very physical defense, just like the Thunder. And I would say that there were a lot of calls that weren't going the Thunder's way in this game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm saying, like, I really think that Shai earned more than 10 free throws when you consider 7 of them weren't real free throws. They were just like technicals or end of the game intentional fouls. I think that Shai should have gone to the line more because, like you said, the Pistons played very, very physical. The whole free throw narrative with the Thunder is just, it's a myth. If this was like Mythbusters, we could bust it because they have the second worst free throw differential in the entire league. They shoot the fourth fewest free throws in the league, and I believe they have the fourth worst free throw rate in the league, and that's despite the fact that they lead the league in drives. I know that's not always an indicator of free throws, but it's something. You have a guy who's going to win MVP. Obviously, Shai gets calls. You could argue whether he deserves more or less, or it's just right. But the team as a whole does not get calls. J-Dub famously does not get calls. And I think on the other end, the Thunder do play a very physical brand of basketball, especially defensively. They're very handsy, and they are going to foul you a lot. So as far as like opponent free throws go, I'm fine with Thunder opponent free throws because they're going to send the other team to the line a lot. That's going to happen. I think the missing part of this, and what's funny about the whole narrative is, you see the slow motion replays on Twitter or whatever. The Thunder themselves probably deserve more calls than they get on the other end as far as their own free throws go. So I think that's kind of the missing link there.
And we're going to come back to free throws and Shai in just a moment, but let's advance to the third game, another one that you were skeptical that the Thunder could pull out if they didn't have J-Dub. I think on the podcast last week you had thought maybe if J-Dub were playing, this would be one the Thunder could take, but of course J-Dub was also out in this one. Dort was out after he got injured in the Pistons game, and while Shai had a really solid night, he scored 31 points. He also had 8 assists. He struggled shooting from the floor. He was 0 of 5 from 3, just 11 of 27 from the field. But the player of the game was Isaiah Hartenstein, who set a career high with 24 points. He had 12 rebounds. And in sharing quite a few minutes with Chet, I think that the double big lineup of Hart and Holmgren is starting to come into its own.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And on the defensive end, they did a great job of holding Giannis. I believe it was his first game this season under 50%. I could be wrong. But he was 7 of 15, only scored 21 points. He was a minus 13 in his minutes. I thought the double bigs, especially in this matchup, was really, really impressive. And I think if we would have seen double bigs in the NBA Cup Finals, that could have been a different result. You know, the Thunder could have a banner hanging right now in the Paycom Center for the NBA Cup. But yeah, I thought the double bigs against this Bucks team was really phenomenal. And I think it's getting better and better regardless of the matchup lately. So there's a reason the Thunder are running the double bigs. They want to have, you know, that data going into the playoffs, whether this is going to work or not. And then games like this, matchups like this, you can kind of see the vision. But Hartenstein was great. Chet was great. I thought Isaiah Joe was great. So you had the two Isaiahs and you had the two bigs I thought were great. And Hartenstein was the link in both of those. But Hartenstein definitely the player of the game. And the plus minus, you can't always say a single game plus minus means anything. But I think in this game where he was a plus 23 by far the best in the game, I thought that played out just like it looked.
Yeah, and the Thunder did play great defense. They held Milwaukee to their lowest first half point total of the season, and that puts the Thunder at 2-0 this season against the Bucks. They did lose in the NBA Cup championship. That one doesn't count. They absolutely demolished the Bucks back early in February, but that was without Giannis. And now with Giannis, they still won by double digits. So another really impressive win for the Thunder, and on this 3-game road trip. Yeah, all really, really solid wins to move to 56-12 on the year. The win over Boston did clinch a playoff spot. And so now the Thunder are really just looking to lock up the number 1 seed, which they already are going to get the number 1 seed. It's just a matter of when they're going to clinch that. But I want to go back to the free throw question. So the Bucks took more free throws than the Thunder, 33-25. Not surprising, that happens in most games. But when the Thunder's on the road, you are starting to hear more and more fan bases drop the free throw merchant chant when Shai goes to the line. You see on social media people criticize Shai and the whistle he gets. But I do want to do just a little bit of myth busting here, because Shai was matched up against Giannis in this game, and Giannis is the league leader in free throws per game. He averages over 10 free throws per game. He averages more than one more free throw per game than Shai does. He also took more free throws in this game, 12-11. And on top of that, if you look at the percentage of points scored in the NBA, there are a ton of players who get more of their points off of free throws than Shai does. That list includes Jimmy Butler, who gets like 33% of his points off of free throws, Jaden Springer out of Utah, James Harden, Trae Young, Damian Lillard, Dwight Powell, Denny Avita gets more points off of free throws than Shai does. John Morant gets more points off of free throws than Shai does. So this whole narrative about Shai being a free throw merchant, to me, is really starting to make me angry, because it's not grounded in any reality whatsoever.
It's really not. It's not. And then if you go and look at past MVP winners, there was a tweet going around last night. Kenny Beecham on his podcast listed off all the different MVP winners. SGA currently has a lower free throw rate than Joel Embiid's MVP season, Giannis's MVP season, Harden's MVP season, Westbrook's MVP season, KD's, all of LeBron's MVP seasons, Kobe's, Dirk's, Allen Iverson's, Karl Malone's, and 3 of Michael Jordan's MVP seasons. All those, very recent by the way, MVP winners had a higher free throw rate than SGA currently does. I really hate it for Shai himself, because he is having a historical season. This is a season that's going to go down as one of the best guard seasons of all time. And if you actually watch the games and don't just look at one slow motion replay of a foul on Twitter, if you actually watch the games, the way he is scoring is just phenomenal. He is playing an unbelievable brand of basketball, and I just wish everybody appreciated it instead of just, clamoring and claiming free throws when the numbers, as John just rattled off all those names and Kenny Beecham rattled off all those names that I read, it's a myth. All these MVP winners in the past, higher free throw rates than the guy that's getting a reputation as a free throw merchant. So I just hate it for Shai.
I agree. It's completely unfair, and we're going to continue to defend Shai on this podcast because it's the right thing to do. It's not based on any kind of evidence that Shai is getting any kind of favorable whistle, or that the points that he's getting are the result of him getting to the line at a higher frequency than other players, and he's not earning his points because he is probably one of the few players, if not the best in the NBA, at scoring at every level, right? He can score at the rim. He is one of the best mid-range players in the game in creating his own shot. He has improved his three-point shooting, and he also is a great free throw shooter. And when he gets to the line, he usually converts. And then you add his defense on top of that. Shai's having a special season, and I hope that the NBA MVP voters respect that and don't pay attention to the false narrative that's out there about his free throw shooting.
It's just a quick point on the MVP race. Like, at this point, I know that the betting odds are heavily in Shai's favor, as they should be. Like, we're looking at a 13-game lead right now from the Thunder to the Nuggets. The Thunder, I tweeted this, the Thunder have fewer losses against the entire Eastern Conference than the Nuggets do against the Washington Wizards. This has been a dominant season. Like, the story of this season isn't, Jokic and the Nuggets, getting the 3 seed and him getting a triple-double. Jokic is incredible. Jokic is going to go down as an all-time player. I think that he's earned all his previous MVPs. Absolutely. But this particular season, the story of this season has been OKC and the Cavs, and I think it's SGA taking the youngest team in the league to the number 1 seed with a 13-game lead over the number 2 seed, whoever that ends up being. And I think that Shai absolutely deserves MVP this season for what he's doing. And the fact that he's playing, two-way basketball. He's playing all NBA defense on one end, and he's leading the league in scoring by like a good 4 points on highly efficient basketball on the other end.
Well, now we'll kind of segue that into a game where the Thunder sat out, where Shai sat out, and that was a game against the Portland Trailblazers that the bench ultimately won. So the Thunder sat out, or had all of their starters sit out, ended up winning, but just this last week, the NBA announced that they were investigating the Thunder for violation of the league's player participation policy because of all of the players who did not play against the Blazers. They also said they are investigating the 76ers, who coincidentally the Thunder play tonight at home. Now, the policy itself generally, weights national TV games more than non-national TV games. The policy also is really related to sitting star players. The Thunder have 2 players who qualify under that label. That is Shai and J-Dub, and both did not play against the Blazers. I think one factor that might be contributing to the investigation is that J-Dub played the following night. But with the Thunder and the Sixers matched up tonight, it's sort of interesting timing with the investigation into violations of this policy. But what do you think? Do you think that the Thunder, there's an argument that they violated the spirit of the rule when they are resting Shai, who's healthy?
I understand if you go by like the letter of the law. The problem is, look across the NBA. Look at the injury reports every single night, and whether that's national TV or not. Look at the players who are resting or have kind of mysterious injuries. Look at the teams that are, in the lottery and their star players and their national TV games. Look at those injury reports. Here's the thing. The Thunder truly had like various nagging injuries from all of these guys. Like J-Dub has dealt with a wrist injury, and he's missed time due to a wrist injury. You can go through the guys that are missing. Obviously, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, Lou Dort. All these guys have had legit injuries recently. and it was a good opportunity because this, when you look at the context of it, and I think this is what changes everything and what makes all of this just ridiculous on the NBA's part. The Thunder had just played 5 games in 8 nights, and they had played 8 games in 13 nights. And they had a back-to-back on national TV, by the way, against the Nuggets coming up in 2 days. So all these games packed together, and this was just an opportunity to get some rest with all these various nagging injuries. And they were upfront about SGA taking the game off due to rest. And why? Is that okay? Because Shai had only missed 1 game all season long. So it made all the sense in the world, I thought. Oh, and by the way, the Thunder still won this game by 18 points. So I think it's pretty ridiculous. I think that if you look at the injury reports across the NBA, you could investigate any various number of teams, and I think that's kind of the issue too, because the Thunder had legitimate reasons to, sit guys because of injuries, and because Shai had only missed 1 game all season, and because of the compact schedule.
Well, if I'm going to put my conspiracy theorist hat on, though, I'm going to throw out a theory that the Thunder are so far ahead of their competition in the Western Conference, and in fact, the Thunder could lock up the number 1 seed tonight if the Lakers lose and the Thunder win. So a month out from the end of the season, or really when the playoffs start, the Thunder are about to lock up the number 1 seed. And with the way that the fines could potentially escalate, I just wonder if Adam Silver and the league aren't trying to send a little message to the Thunder, who will be looking to rest players during the home stretch, because the Thunder still have some national TV games on the schedule.
You know what, though? Ultimately, that is an interesting point. The final thing that I will say is, if the Thunder get fined $100,000, totally worth it to see Jay Will's triple-double. Totally worth the $100K out of the Thunder's pockets to see that game. And what's funny is, ironically, I think all the fans in the arena that night and watching on TV that night loved that game and would say that was one of their favorite games of the season, because all these role players, all these bench guys are, beloved by Thunder fans. So everybody loves seeing Wiggins go off for 30 points, loves seeing Jay Will get his first career triple-double. It was a fun game that the Thunder still dominated. So, if they end up getting fined, so be it. Worth it, I think.
As I mentioned, the Thunder can lock up the number 1 seed in the Western Conference as early as tonight should the Lakers lose. The Thunder are currently 12.5 games up over the Rockets and the Nuggets in the standings, but the Cavs in the Eastern Conference have now lost 2 in a row. So where a few days ago the Thunder were behind by 2 games to the Cavs for that number 1 overall record in the NBA, they are now tied, which could help the Thunder if there was a Cavs-Thunder finals match to take home court advantage in the NBA Finals. Looking at the rest of the schedule for both the Cavs and the Thunder, and maybe the potential weighing of resting players, or in the event of tonight's game, whether a loss for the Thunder helps the Thunder get that 76ers pick. Do you think it's going to be a photo finish for that number 1 overall record?
I do think it will be. Technically, if you look at remaining strength of schedule, the Cavs have a little bit tougher of a remaining strength of schedule. 49.4%. Their opponent's winning percentage, and the Thunder at 47.5%. But if you just look at the teams they're playing, I'd look at them. I think it's pretty even, honestly. They both play a handful of teams that are in the lottery and tanking, and they both play a handful of teams that are playoff teams. Neither of them have, I would say probably the Cavs have the toughest matchups left, because they have 2 games against the Knicks, 2 games against the Pacers, and 1 game against the Clippers, whereas the Thunder's toughest games left are 1 game against the Rockets, 1 game against the Grizzlies, 1 game. Well, actually, I forgot about the Lakers. They do have 2 games against the Lakers, and I guess it just depends on if LeBron is playing those games or not, how tough it's going to be. So I think you can make an argument either way. So I think it will be a photo finish. What I'm curious is if either of them care enough to try to clinch it. I'll say this, though. The Thunder's last 2 games, are against the Jazz and the Pelicans. So no matter who the Thunder are resting, those two teams are going to want to hand those wins over to the Thunder, which could be an advantage.
And that's a great segue into the discussion about the outlook for the 2025 NBA draft and the picks that the Thunder have. So there are actually 4 possible 2025 picks the Thunder could have. They have the 76ers pick, which is top 6 protected. They have the Heat pick, which is lottery protected. And they have the pick from the Jazz that is top 10 protected. They also have a pick swap with the Rockets and the Clippers, so essentially they can take the best pick among their own, the Rockets and the Clippers, most likely the Clippers. So breaking down what possibilities might be out there, we'll start with the 76ers pick. Philadelphia right now I think has the 6th worst record in the league. So they are right on the line, just on the odds of keeping their pick versus conveying to the Thunder. How likely do you see the Thunder taking that 76ers pick? And do you think the Sixers have very little motivation to win tonight's game against the Thunder?
The 76ers have zero motivation. All their motivation is losing. They almost pulled off a win over the Rockets the other night. They should have. That would have been a big one for the Thunder because, we're talking about a big swing in percentage points that the Thunder could land that pick, whether they're 5, 6, or 7. 6, you still have a 54% chance, and that's what the 76ers are right now. They're in the 6th spot. It's between the Nets, the Raptors, and the 76ers. So if you're a Thunder fan, you're rooting for as many Nets and Raptors losses down the stretch as possible and as many 76ers wins as possible down the stretch. The big hope is that they stay out of the 5 spot, because you get less than 50% odds that you keep the pick if you're the Thunder if they end up at 5. If they end up at 6, it's basically a coin flip, slightly favored towards the Thunder getting it. And if they were to fall to 7 somehow, then that increases to I think it's like a 65% chance that the Thunder end up with that pick. So root for Raptors and Nets losses and root for 76ers wins.
Yeah, and I don't know what you think about this, and I think it may be very obvious here that if you're a Thunder fan, you probably want the pick to convey this year. Although, if it doesn't convey this year, it's only top 4 protected in 26, 27. But it seems likely the 76ers are going to be better this year. Injuries have really taken its toll against the Sixers, and they've shut down Paul George for the rest of the season. So getting a lottery pick or a top 10 pick this year seems likely if it conveys, but far less likely next season. What do you think?
Yeah, so like you said, they're going to be better next year. I think they'll have Maxey back at the least. Paul George, should be back from his injuries. Embiid should be back. Now, how healthy are Embiid and George going to stay and remain throughout a season? Obviously, that's a question mark. Every season they'll have McCain back. I mean, their 4 best players, Embiid, George, Maxey, and probably McCain, are all injured for the rest of the season, most likely. We haven't gotten official notice on Maxey, but I can't imagine they're going to play him at all because they want to lose. Quentin Grimes has been great. If they're going to pick up any wins from now until the end of the season, it's probably going to be because of Quentin Grimes. But yeah, next season, I just don't think that the upside and ceiling will be as high next season as it is the possibility of a number 7 or number 8 overall pick this season. They'll be better next season, but I still don't see them being a top team just because of injury questions. So maybe you're looking at a mid-lottery pick next season, realistically. So you'd really like it to convey this season.
Well, with the Heat pick, it's very similar to the Sixers pick that the Heat are kind of right on the line with their record, whether it's going to convey or not. The Heat are currently in the last spot to play in the Eastern Conference. And at the standings today, this one would get deferred and the Thunder wouldn't take this pick because it is lottery protected. If it doesn't convey this year, it becomes fully unprotected in 2026. I guess, in my opinion, if this one doesn't convey, that's okay. Full unprotections next year.
Yeah, this one is a win-win because if it does convey, that means it's probably going to be the number 15 overall pick, which is, hey, in this draft, the number 15 overall pick, that's a nice pick. That's good. But I think I'd still prefer, if I'm the Thunder, for that to convey next year because it's unlimited upside. I mean, that could potentially be a top 5 pick. Who knows? In a really, really good draft next year. When you have an unprotected pick from a team with question marks, yes, historically Miami has been good, and they'll have all the motivation to go out and get better. But they did lose Jimmy Butler, and you're paying Bam a lot of money. You're paying Tyler Hero a lot of money, and Andrew Wiggins. We'll see if they make any moves, but that could potentially be a really, really nice pick next year. So I probably would prefer for it not to convey this year and for it to be an unprotected pick next year.
Totally agree. And then the Jazz pick, that one is top 10 protected. It's not going to convey. So
no,
not much
no
to talk
chance.
about there. But next season, it becomes top 8 protected. And I'd say even then, going to be iffy that the Thunder will take the Jazz first-round pick. If it doesn't convey next year, it converts to a 2028 second-round pick. So hopefully the Jazz end up with a really high pick, get a great player, improve on the record this year, and finish 9th. And get their pick to fall at number 9 in 2026. So this one doesn't get lost to a second-round pick.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. It's not happening this year. Obviously, it's impossible. Next year, I'd still say they're probably going to be one of the worst 8 teams. Unless, like you said, if they were to get Cooper Flagg or, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, and then, they play Laurie next year and Walker Kessler, and they get off to a decent start, maybe they kind of feel like they want to flirt with the play-in. Maybe that could happen. So that's what you got to root for if you're a Thunder fan.
Now let's look ahead to the next week of games. Pretty busy slate for the Thunder. They start tonight against the 76ers. Again, Sixers have no motivation to win, but the Thunder are also resting some players. Shai is going to be out. I think J-Dub will continue to be out. Dort will continue to be out. A couple of guys questionable like Hartenstein. This one might be interesting to watch with all the players who are going to be out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting is a good way to call it. This is a win-win for the Thunder. If the Thunder win, hey, cool. They keep that lead for the Western Conference, and that looks good for Shai's MVP resume that they have such a huge lead, and you still right there with the Cavs for best record in the NBA. But if you lose, you help out the chances that the 76ers pick conveys this season, so it's a win-win either way.
And then on Friday at home, the Thunder play the Hornets, another tanking team, so to speak. I guess if Shai plays, very likely the Thunder run away with this one. Anything to talk about with the Hornets game?
Yeah, I'm just curious who plays and who doesn't play that game. If Shai plays that game, I don't think he's playing the fourth quarter. I'll say that.
Yeah. And then a couple of tough Western Conference and West Coast swing games starting Sunday in LA against the Clippers, against free throw merchant James Harden, and then on Tuesday in Sacramento. I think those are 2 tough games depending upon who plays for the Thunder.
Yeah, the Clippers have played really well this season. Got to tip the hat and give the Clippers credit. They just had a really, really nice win over the Cavs. So in LA, I think that's a tough game. Also, these 2 teams, the Kings are probably going to be without Domantas Sabonis. He's supposed to miss at least 10 games with this ankle injury. So probably no Sabonis in that game. Actually, if you do the math, yeah, I definitely know Sabonis in that game. So I think that's a win. I think that Clippers one's going to be a good one. I like the Thunder to win all these games if they're playing their guys. The caveat, if they're playing their guys against the Clippers and Kings. Also, an interesting note, Clippers and Kings, very real possibilities. One of those 2 teams will be the Thunder's first-round matchup in the playoffs.
And what I'm kind of wondering is when do you expect J-Dub will return? You have any indications of when he'll be back?
We heard from Shams that it's not expected to be a long-term injury, but it just so happens, the road trip, he was always going to miss all 3 games on the road trip. But then you come home and you're playing the 76ers. And so, if you're looking for an extra spot to give him some more rest, you rest him tonight. That gives him 2 more days rest coming off of that hip injury. So I think it makes sense for him to rest against the 76ers tonight. I'd be very, very curious if he plays against the Hornets. I would expect him back very soon, if not the Hornets game, then the Clippers game.
And really to close, can you help us figure out what is going on with all the hip injuries this season?
It is wild. I don't know if the Thunder just need like a specific like doctor that focuses solely on hip prevention, hip injury prevention, or what. But from Chet to Lou Dort to Alex Caruso to J-Dub, thoughts and prayers out to the Thunder hips. But the good news is none of these are long-term injuries. And, we've seen now Chet and Caruso are back and healthy, and Lou Dort should be back soon, and J-Dub should be back soon. So that's the good news.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, host of the podcast, and he's Brandon Rabar, Daily Thunder beat writer. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Thunder podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, do us a favor and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back in your feed soon.